The 4th of October 2012, 2:10 a.m, Bexley Heath Police Station, England. A man walked into the station. Dressed in dark trousers and a dark jacket, he walked up to the front desk to speak to an officer. "I think I've killed someone," he said. He gave the police a location to look at, telling them he had slashed a person's neck and left them. There was blood on his face and on his hands. He was taken into an interview room to give the officers more information. He told them that this incident had happened in a small village in Kent, so the Metropolitan Police officers from Bexley Heath contacted Kent Police to tell them about the 23-year-old's confession. Kent Police confirmed they were dealing with the murder of a young woman. The pieces were beginning to fall into place. Just a few hours earlier, a call had come in to 999. The 3rd of October 2012, Swanley Village, Kent, 11:18 p.m.
Service, where is the help required?
I'm in Swanley Village, and there's a girl or a woman lying at the side of the road, appears to be unconscious.
Okay, is she breathing?
She's breathing. We can't feel her breathing, can't feel the pulse. This is warm.
How old is she?
We don't know, she's face down and we don't really want to move her in case
Right. Right, listen, no, I'm telling you to move her now. Roll her onto her back for me.
Move her, roll her onto her back, roll her onto her back.
Keep going, alright, keep going, and do not stop until I tell you. Keep doing this until help arrives. So you said that she's bleeding from the head?
Yeah.
Okay. You say she's bleeding from her neck?
Yeah. Blood everywhere.
Alright, we're not too far away. We're actually just coming into Swanley now, alright?
Okay, thank you.
Down until the ambulance person takes over.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
As soon as the paramedics arrived on scene, they took over CPR and continued to fight to save the life of the young woman, despite their best efforts and those of the group who had found her. At 11:30 p.m, she was pronounced dead. They needed to work out who she was and alert her loved ones as soon as possible. Swanley Village was small and news was bound to travel fast. It was home to only a few hundred people, so they needed to make sure that they spoke to her family before anyone else did. This was made harder as she had no identification on her. She appeared to be in her early 20s and she had multiple stab wounds to her body, with several to her neck. She was wearing shorts, a vest and a dressing gown, and 2 slippers were found nearby. The only item that could have potentially helped identify her was a set of keys. The scene was sealed off and the painstaking task of collecting evidence began. Given the fact that she was warm when they had found her, and that she was found by the side of the road, this had clearly happened very recently, and potentially her killer wouldn't be far away. All traffic going in and out of the village was stopped, and police stood guard at every entrance, and the whole village was shut down as the hunt for her killer began. Forensic dogs were deployed to see if they could trace the route she had taken, and this was when the distressing truth came to light. The dogs did not lead them back to a property. They led them to the middle of an isolated road. This meant that this was likely where the attack had started. But how had she got to this spot? She had either been walking home, or been taken there in a vehicle. She had clearly made an attempt to flee from her attacker, as there was a trail of blood that stretched 148 metres, 485 feet, from the first blood spot to where she was found. The pattern appeared to zigzag across the road, showing that she had been staggering from side to side. As the sun began to rise over Swanley Village, this morning was a very different one. For a close and peaceful community having their village full of police and searches being conducted, with no real idea as to what had happened, it was deeply unnerving and upsetting, and just a few miles away, a family's life was about to change forever. Adele Jarvis had woken up at around 6:20 a.m. As she walked to the bathroom, she passed her daughter Natalie's room. Natalie wasn't there. She went down and told her husband, Natalie's father Mark, that their daughter wasn't in her room. He told her not to worry, she had probably stayed at her sister Gemma's or at one of her friends. He reassured Adele that Natalie was 23 years old and responsible and was probably okay. But Adele wasn't convinced, so she rang 999. She told the operator that her daughter would not have upped and left or run away. She said she had gone out the previous evening in her dressing gown and pyjamas, after a man she had been seeing had arrived to pick her up in his red Renault Clio. She was worried that the pair of them had potentially been in a road traffic collision. The operator asked her to confirm the details of her daughter's appearance, and straight away an officer was sent to the Jarvis house to talk to them about the developments and what had been found during the night. At 7:30 a.m, an officer knocked at the door and was let in by Mark. It was then they heard the news that is every parent's worst nightmare. A body had been found, and they believed it was that of their child. They also confirmed that this wasn't an accident. This was a murder inquiry. And they had someone in custody, 23-year-old Adam Wheelahan. Adele and Mark were absolutely stunned. Adam Wheelahan had initially been spoken to by the Metropolitan Police but was later driven to North Kent Police Station to be interviewed by the officers in charge of the investigation. His answer to every single question was no comment, but he did give a statement via his solicitor. He said that Natalie had been the one to attack him with a multi-tool, and he had acted in self-defence. But his story did not match with the injuries that Natalie had. She had been stabbed 20 times, with some of the wounds being 4.3 inches deep, and her throat had been cut. This seemed to go way beyond self-defence on his part. This was a vicious and brutal attack against Natalie. The officers now needed to paint a clear picture of their victim. Natalie Jarvis was the younger daughter of Mark and Adele. After leaving school, she worked in a fast food restaurant, and her mom described her as outgoing and someone who laughed a lot. Her sister Gemma said she was vivacious and mischievous. The pair weren't just siblings, they were best friends. Natalie loved music and would have it as loud as it would go. Westlife could always be heard coming from her bedroom. Natalie had a big and great group of friends and loved to spend her free time hanging out with them. She loved talking to her friends so much. Her mother described a time when her father came into the home office and found her using the landline, her mobile, and her computer to talk to her friends. Her love for her friends was clearly reciprocated, as one of them, Michelle, described Natalie as one in a million and the best friend that someone could ask for. As news began to spread about what had happened, the community couldn't believe it, with one person saying they had never ever seen anything like this in their 20 years of being in the area. And for her friends, the news was devastating. Natalie's friend Michelle received a call asking if she was okay. Michelle, somewhat confused, said she was fine and asked why. The friend said that there had been a body found in Swanley Village. It was Natalie's body. Michelle immediately called Natalie and asked her to get in touch and confirm that she was okay, and that this was just one big misunderstanding, but it soon became clear that it wasn't. Michelle and the rest of Natalie's friends were in shock and completely devastated. Michelle decided to go down to the scene but was told they wouldn't be able to go any further because of the police cordon and the forensics examinations being carried out. So they sat on the curb and waited, but before long they were told to move back further as they were now going to remove the body. As the private ambulance drove past, it was the realisation of everyone's worst fears. Mark and Adele had to wait 2 days before they could identify their daughter's body. My brother-in-law says he will never forget my scream. We weren't allowed to touch her, we had to look at her through glass. But in the end they let us in the room because we were so distraught, and we were only allowed to kiss her face, Adele said. Mark added the pain was off the scale. Men like to think that they're hard as nails and can deal with anything. But when the curtain comes back, I felt physically sick. I turned away and then I was on my hands and knees in the toilet, retching, and I could hear Adele's screams. I've always fought for my family, but I just couldn't do anything. I've never felt so worthless in all my life. One thing the officers knew was that when Natalie left the house that night, she had taken her phone with her, but it wasn't near her body. So, where was it? After getting a specialist search team on the case, her phone was found thrown into a bush. The phone had been damaged, and they needed to ascertain whether it had been damaged when it was thrown, or if it had been damaged deliberately. After Adam was arrested, his clothes were seized and samples of his DNA were taken, as were swabs of the blood on his hands and face. And the more they began to piece this difficult case together, the more disturbing it all became. Adam and Natalie had met in a pub in the summer of 2008 via mutual friends. Natalie had been in a long-term relationship which ended in 2012, but this new spark with Adam was exciting. I was happy for her because she had been in a very dark place. This man had come into her life and appeared to be putting some happiness back into it, her mom said. She didn't want to put a label on it, but she wasn't seeing anybody else and they were in a sexual relationship. They ate out and went to the cinema, doing everything a normal couple did, she added. But behind her back, Adam was exceptionally cruel to his friends about Natalie, making fun of her weight, her appearance, and being derogatory and rude. Now that they understood how the pair knew each other, the police then began to piece together exactly what had happened that day. Natalie had been working, but due to it being a quieter shift, she was able to leave an hour early and be home by 10 o'clock. She told her mom that Adam was picking her up as they were going to arrange to go to the cinema the next day. Due to her shift pattern, she would usually go out whenever she finished, and after jumping in the shower, she went outside in her dressing gown and pyjamas to meet Adam. Adam was adamant that she had been the one to attack him, and although his story seemed implausible, given the nature of Natalie's injuries, they decided to look at surveillance footage to track his movements on the night of her death. He had been to the pub with a friend called Tom, and at 6 p.m. the day after Adam was arrested, Tom was also questioned by the police. He said that he had Adam's car keys and mobile phone. He also said that on that night, he had been in the boot of the car. This was a bizarre thing to say. Why on earth had he been in the boot? At first he said he was there for protection because Adam had told him that Natalie had a load of people who were after him. Then he said it was because Natalie had been saying cruel things about Tom following the death of his father, and he wanted to catch her saying these things in the act. Following the revelation that he had been in the boot of the car, Tom's clothes were sent away for further investigations to see if they had blood on them. If they did, it would mean they would be able to place him close to the scene of the attack. They came back as having no blood on them. Tom was able to give them some more vital information. He told the officers where Adam's car had been left, and the car provided a wealth of vital evidence. There was blood on the steering wheel and a multi-tool on the driver's side door storage. They believed that this was the murder weapon. The evidence didn't stop there. Tracksuit bottoms covered in blood were located, and there was more blood in the boot. It was Natalie's blood. The evidence was strong, but what on earth could have possibly been the motive? Well, according to Adam, Natalie had told him she was pregnant with his child. It was confirmed by the coroner that she was not pregnant, nor were there any signs of recent termination. It is unknown why she would say something like that to him, or if she believed she was pregnant but hadn't had it confirmed. But that would have given him a motive for wanting her out of the picture. His digital footprint also painted a disturbing picture. On the 6th of September 2012, Tom had sent a message to Adam saying, "Just f***ing stab the or something." Adam replied, "Need to, she's a 11 days later, Tom sent Adam a message on Twitter saying, "The end is nigh, JC, the end is nigh." JC meant James Corden, and this was how he would refer to Natalie. On the 19th of September, Adam sent Tom a message saying he was doing JC in tomorrow. 2 days after that message, Tom asked Adam if he'd heard from Natalie. Adam replied, "She is on late on Monday until 11 p.m, so I'll do it then." He later said that it just meant he wanted to talk to her and try and resolve this civilly. At 10:40 p.m. on the 30th of September, Tom sent Adam a message. "Kill anyone tonight?" "No, only in my mind," Adam replied. The day before the killing, he had sent a message to a friend saying, "I couldn't find the place I wanted to do it. Had my knife ready and everything." On the night of Natalie's murder, at 9:41 p.m, he had sent Natalie a message asking to meet, and at 9:46, some of Adam's friends were texting back and forth. His friend Matthew received a text from another friend, Stephen. "He's still with you?" Matthew replied, "Yeah, not for long though." Stephen said, "Fair enough. What you reckon on this?" Matthew said back, "Right now, I hope he does it." Matthew later said he did not remember sending those messages as he was extremely drunk. He would be asked what he thought those messages meant. He replied, that I hope he was going to kill her by the looks of it. After driving around, Natalie realised that the boot warning light was on, not knowing that Tom was in there. She asked Adam to stop the car. He parked up on Button Street and the pair got out. It was here that he launched his attack. After killing her, he met with friends and bought alcohol, and joked about what he had done, even giving one friend banknotes that were soaked in blood. One of the most devastating details was that he bragged about breaking her phone and throwing it away from her as she begged for her mom. Natalie knew she was dying, and she pleaded with him to call Adele. He refused, broke her phone, and threw it away.
But I have to live with this rage, with this not knowing why. And then what happened to her? She wanted me. She wanted me in her last moments of her life. He asked him, "Adam, I'm dying, please ring my mum." And he threw her phone away. She wanted me, I was the last thing on her mind, and I would give anything to have just been there, to hold her, just hold her. I couldn't have helped her, but I could have held her.
On the 5th of October 2012, Adam Wheelahan was charged with the murder of Natalie Jarvis. 6 days later, Tom was arrested, and the following day he too was charged with murder. After they were charged, it was time for Natalie's loved ones to say goodbye to her and celebrate her life. Her mother said that her funeral was packed with so many people and flowers. It was clear just how much she meant to so many people and the impact her life had had. On the 3rd of April 2013, the pair went on trial. For her family to hear Adam say that she had been the one to attack him and that she had instigated was enraging. Gemma said that Natalie wouldn't have even known what a multi-tool was, let alone even considered using it to attack someone. His defence argued that it was lawful self-defence and that he had kept the multi-tool in his glove box for work. He said that she had been the one to get the multi-tool out of the glove box and use it to attack him, and he had defended himself, believing his life was in danger. He described Natalie as being delusional about their relationship, and he was adamant that they weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. He said that she had harassed him via text messages for ages, but his replies to her messages contained kisses and affection, and at no point did he say not to contact him or that they weren't in a relationship. He also said that he felt pressured by Natalie as she had told him she was pregnant and he was going to be a dad. The defence called Natalie a manipulative woman, saying, "The point is, I'm asking you to put yourself in the shoes of a 23-year-old boy, or rather, young man. Adam Wheelahan had had sex with Natalie Jarvis. He didn't want a relationship with her. He certainly didn't want a baby. He felt cornered. He was bombarded with texts and threats. Until July 2012, when he had sex with Natalie Jarvis, Adam had been a carefree, happy young man who enjoyed life and was easygoing and had everything going for him. In July 2012, he had sex with Natalie Jarvis, and 5 days later she was telling him she was pregnant with his baby. She was merciless. The texts came, the demands came, and then the threats. He became a different person. He was, in effect, devastated by what Natalie was doing to him. He was 23, he was living with his parents. He was told he was going to be a father by someone he was not in a relationship with. He became depressed, he became morbid. And when his undertaker friend started talking about stabbing the woman, he joined in the joke and it remained a joke. The defence also alleged that an ex-partner of Natalie's had had a similar experience with her. Despite the allegations of her bombarding him with messages, the 1,200 text messages and calls over the 6 weeks leading up to her death were evenly split between the pair of them, and Adam had picked her up and taken her out on various occasions. Mark, Natalie's father, said all they could do was assassinate Natalie's character because Wheelahan's defence lawyer had nothing to work with. When looking at the events of that night, the court heard how at 10:30 p.m, a camera had picked up Adam's car driving down Maidstone Road in the direction of Swanley. 2 minutes later, he sent Natalie a message saying he was outside. At the same time, Tom sent a photograph of himself in the car boot to a friend. He then followed it up with, "I'm scared." His friend asked what had happened, and Tom said, "It's him, he's gone f***ing mental. I don't know, he's gonna do her." Followed by, "It's all got out of hand. I'm going to get done for it." His friend asked several times if he wanted her to call the police for him, but he never answered. She would tell the court, "I was in the car with my mum at the time. As you could imagine, I thought they were just showing off. Not for a second, I honestly believed he was in the boot of a car. I didn't think he was serious. I was playing into what I thought was a joke." As time ticked by, she continued to grow more concerned, and Tom messaged 3 times in a row saying, "Have you got my number? I'm f***ed." She told the court he said at one point Adam kept saying to him he wanted to kill Natalie. He wanted to get rid of her. Tom would say he said to him, "If I kill her, will you get rid of the body?" It was now time for Tom to give evidence. He told the court, "He rang me from the pub saying he had sex with Natalie and she was pregnant. He was drinking at the time. He was just saying, 'I can't believe this is happening. I can't be dealing with this.' That was the first time that he said he wanted to kill Natalie. I didn't take it seriously at all. He asked me to go with him. He was saying that Natalie had slagged me and my dad off the previous Saturday. I was a bit upset. Adam was going to go down to meet Natalie. He said if I go with him, she can't know I'm there, otherwise she won't go out to meet him. He made a comment about me getting into the boot of the car. I don't think he was very drunk. I know he'd been in the pub for a couple of hours before we met him, but I don't think he was that drunk. I didn't feel drunk at all, maybe tired." After picking Natalie up, the car drove off and eventually pulled into Button Street, and the pair got out at 10:50 p.m. When asked about what had happened when the car stopped on Button Street, Tom said, "I heard 2 doors open. I'm not sure who got out first. Then I hear Natalie's voice saying if there's someone in the boot, I'm going to f***ing kill them. By this time, I shut the boot completely. Then someone came to the back of the car. I heard, 'Adam, get off me.' The first couple of times it was in a playful, jokey way. Then she might have said it a third time, but it was more serious. 'Get off me, Adam.' I didn't hear Adam say anything. The voices started to drift away. I think I just froze in the boot for a second, more than a second. I pushed the boot open. I looked down the rest of Button Street and saw Adam and Natalie at the end of the road. They were an arm's length apart. Adam's hands were on Natalie's shoulders and Natalie's hands were on Adam's. He said he didn't see either of them holding anything in their hands that looked like a weapon. He said he believed he heard Natalie still saying "get off me," but he couldn't hear Adam saying anything. Tom then moved the car and sent another text message. "He's done it, he's f***ing done it." When he was asked what it meant, he said, "Stabbing Natalie, killing Natalie." Tom said that when Adam returned to the car, there was blood all over his tracksuit bottoms and all over his face. He asked him what had happened, and Adam replied, "I didn't know my own strength. I pushed her down. He showed me his hand was bleeding quite badly, and he got his phone out and started texting." At 10:45 p.m, as Natalie lay by the side of the road, the Renault Clio drove out of Button Street. 6 minutes later, Adam sent a message to his friends Stephen and Matthew. "It's done. I'm not lying. I'm covered in blood, man." At 11:29, responding to the message Adam had sent, Matthew sent a text to Stephen saying, "Yes," with 3 exclamation points. "Have you received the same message?" Stephen replied, "I don't know what to say, mate." Just 1 minute later, Natalie was pronounced dead. At 11:37, Adam and Tom went to the Tesco Express on Eltham High Street after picking Matthew up. Adam, who was still covered in blood, gave his car to the other two and stayed in the car. He then proceeded to smoke cigars and drink alcohol with his friends before going to the police station to hand himself in. The prosecution said to Tom, "If you had any intention of helping Natalie at all, if you had any intention of stopping Adam killing Natalie, you would have got out of the boot seconds after hearing her say, 'Get off me, Adam.' You had no feeling for Natalie at all, did you? It doesn't mean I wanted her to die. I wasn't in the boot to help Adam." Tom's defence used a report from a psychiatrist that said he could be easily led by people. The doctor said he is the type of person who would find it difficult to say no, particularly to people he felt emotionally close to or dependent on. It was now time for Adam to give evidence in court. "I don't know how many times she lunged at me with the multi-tool before I was actually cut. I remember managing to grasp hold of it, and there was a struggle, and the next thing I knew she was crawling on the floor. Natalie was a lot bigger and stronger than me. I was scared. She was trying to hurt me, if not kill me. I was trying to get her off me. I was struggling, and then I don't know what happened then." The prosecution hit back at his claims of self-defence. They argued that he had deliberately got Natalie to come out with the sole intention of killing her, and with Tom being in the boot as the getaway driver. The prosecutor called Adam a cold and calculated executioner. A Home Office pathologist told the court that Natalie's defensive wounds indicated a struggle had taken place, and that she had attempted to grab the blade from him. He then listed off the 24 separate injuries she had suffered. His social media posts and the vile messages that had gone around about Natalie via text message and Twitter were also brought up in the trial. On the 23rd of July 2012, Adam had posted, "It's alright to kill someone these days, isn't it? Think I might just do that." A week later he posted, "How do you do it? #murderousmind." Adam said he hadn't actually meant any of it. For the majority of the trial, Adam sat with his head in his hands and didn't really react to anything, in spite of the horrendous nature of the details and evidence that was coming out. The 24th of April 2013. After a trial lasting 3 weeks, the jury were now told to reach a verdict, and around 4 hours later they came back. Tom was found not guilty of murder and he walked free. Adam Wheelahan was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 26 years. The judge said, "Your attack upon her was callous, it was savage and it was premeditated. I am fortified in each of these views by the manner in which you gave your evidence before the jury. No sign of, or indeed a flicker of emotion."
For the Jarvis family, today's life sentence for the man who killed Natalie is just the start of the next stage of their grief.
I miss her. She was my sister and my best friend, and I miss her so much. Honestly.
Adam Wheelahan had gone to the police saying he'd stabbed Natalie out of self-defence. Today, the judge said that text messages sent before and after her murder had shown he'd clearly plotted to kill her.
He brutally and savagely murdered her and inflicted some horrific injuries. In addition to that, the family had to listen to some horrific text messages and other social networking messages that came out, which was absolutely dreadful for them to hear.
He's just an evil, vile, horrible person, and I hope he gets what he deserves. He has to live with what he's done.
Today, Adam Wheelahan starts a sentence of at least 26 years behind bars. Sarah Smith, BBC South East Today, Maidstone Crown Court.
Natalie Jarvis was the most amazing person anyone could wish to meet. She was beautiful inside and out. Her smile and laughter were infectious, and the love she had for life and everyone in her life was overwhelming. Everyone who came into contact with our Natalie will always remember the fun she brought to everyone and everything she did. She cared for everyone and always wanted everyone to be happy, smiling and enjoying life to the full, just as she did. Our family has been horrifically ripped apart by the senseless, savage slaughter of the most loving sister and daughter anyone could ask for. Our home and lives are now void of crushing silence without Natalie's insatiable lust for life. Our overriding desire is to know why. We have been denied this because of individuals lying and denigrating Natalie to save their own pathetic skins. We have had to sit in court as a family and listen to character assassination, total lies, twisted half-truths, abusive insinuations and completely unfounded allegations about Natalie and ourselves with no right to reply. This is so wrong. What happened to truth?
Adele said that her strength to carry on in the wake of such unspeakable tragedy came from Gemma and her memories of Natalie. She was very, very cheeky, very loud and very lovable. I have so many good memories and that makes it harder, she said. Following Natalie's murder, a memorial was erected at the scene where she was found. When we first did it, we just wanted to mark the place where she died, so we put the cross up with a couple of pictures, but then it got bigger. Usually when we're up here, we have people stop and talk to us because it says cruelly murdered on the plaque, so they ask what happened. We want people to see it and keep talking about Natalie and what happened to her. Natalie Jarvis was a woman who simply loved life. She loved her family, she loved her friends, and they loved her just as much in return. She was someone who lived every day to the fullest, and no doubt would have had so many exciting things in her future. Her father Mark said he believed Natalie's death had shown people just how precious life was, and that we all need to love more, give more, and enjoy life. I'm proud of every minute my daughter spent on this planet. She was phenomenal, and me, her sister, her mom, loved her to pieces. And we miss her so terribly, we really do, he said. For Natalie's family, the impact is devastating and immeasurable. As Adele said, people like him don't realise the devastation they cause. There's a ripple effect and it's destroyed relationships with my family and friends, because we're miserable and people don't know what to say. There's a lot of pressure on me and Mark as a couple. Thank God we're still together. I've told him 100 times to go and find someone to make him happy, and he says, I'm not going anywhere. But I feel like a burden to Mark and Gemma. I have to wear a mask to hide how broken I am, but I'll never be okay. Life after Natalie is sad. It's empty. It's lonely. She was my baby girl, and I just want her back.